buckaroos. Welcome to the Haunted Chronicles, episode number 110. Tonight, we're going to share some stories from doctors, nurses, police officers, and other people who have had paranormal or unexplained experiences while on the job. And thank you to last week's guest, Sarbajit Mohanty from the Indian Paranormal team. The babyface assassin is off this week searching for the elusive green-clawed turtle monster somewhere in the woods of Kentucky, I believe. And back with us this week is Jennifer Babysoft Runyon. A belated happy birthday, Jennifer.
Hey, thank you, Jimmy. Thank you so much. I've missed you guys, and it's so great to be back in the United States of America.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were going back to Australia.
Hi, mate. I don't know about that. I've had enough of Europe. I am glad to be home on American soil.
All right.
It was
so
great. No, Australia.
That's a Grease reference, people. All right. So how was your vacation? Where'd you go? Do you have any funny stories or?
Oh man, I'll tell you, we started off in Italy, went to Tuscany, and stayed in this castle, which was really cool and so much fun. And then went to Florence and stayed a couple nights in Florence. And I'm going to tell you right now, I stayed at this hotel in Florence that our friends picked it out. And they're like, oh, it's really old. It'll be really cool. And I'm like, okay, that's awesome. Well, it was really old. And it was creepy. It was probably one of the creepiest places I've ever stayed. And I never felt comfortable the whole time I was in the hotel. And I actually went on a little ghost hunt by myself, kind of, with my camera, and walked around and, showing the old elevator, the one with the claw thing that you have to shut it. And it's like the old elevator from probably the 20s or 30s, and it was incredible, but it just really was creepy. You just felt like that heaviness, and I'd fall asleep and I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I'd hear clicking and I'd hear noises, and of course my husband is dead to the wind, he's sound asleep, and I woke him up one time and he's like, "Are you crazy? Just go back to sleep." But I'm telling you, the second night I had to take 2 Advil PM because I thought I was going to knock myself out because I'm not going to sleep here. I'm going to be listening to every noise. So I was kind of happy to move on from there. And then from there we went to an island in the Maldives and stayed there and had a great time and swam with sharks and squid and big giant turtles. It was really, really incredible. And then we had one day in Paris.
Sorry.
Yeah, there was squid. Swam with the squid. It was pretty intense. It was really fun. And then one day in Paris, just to break up the trip home, because it would be like a 23-hour flight, flying to get home. So we just took one day to, break and, then head home from Paris. But it was great. It was a, trip of a lifetime. Like I said, I'm so glad I'm home. I'm just now suffering from, severe jet lag. And I got food poisoning on Delta Airlines. Oh my God. On the way
This show
home.
is not sponsored by Delta Airlines.
No. But Area, I'm back, and I missed you guys, and good to be here.
Good to have you back.
Yeah, thank you, bud. So, thank you. How about you? You guys had a good week? Good 2 weeks? While I was gone?
I had about 5 or 6 hours of sleep for the last week.
Yeah,
or so.
I'm sure.
Yeah, it was good.
Since I left.
But in actuality, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happier than the yellow-tailed mountain lemur doing karate kicks high up in a eucalyptus tree.
Oh,
Imagine how happy that is, a little fella.
Oh, fascinating.
I was doing research on the you said a hotel in Florence?
Yeah.
You might have been haunted by the dreaded click monster. I can't formulate that.
YOLO!
Okay, right? He was the click monster. I'm telling you. It was. Can you hear it? Can you hear it now?
Yeah.
It was the clicking. And I'm like, what the heck? Why, And so, of course, I get up to go search it out, and there's nothing. But then I get back in bed, and there you go.
Wow.
I don't know.
And thank you for clarifying the pronunciation of what was that word?
Maldives.
Yeah, because everyone was asking where you were, and I was saying,
Yeah.
Maldives. What? Maldives.
Maldives.
Yeah. I did my
It
best.
was in the Maldives. Maldives, and it was very cool. Very cool. Way, way out in the middle of the Indian Ocean, and literally, when you're there and you're like, okay, I'm like in the middle of nowhere right now. I mean, this is insane, but it was really, really cool, really beautiful, really great people, and met some amazing people all over the world, and there you go.
And you know what we talked about earlier?
Mm-hmm.
Our past guest, future guest, and good friend, Willie Ames. Tell me about what happened to poor Willie this week.
Oh my gosh! So I knew he was sick. He was telling me he was sick. I am really ill, Jen. I've never felt so sick. Well, he's on the ship. For our listeners, if you guys don't know, Willie is the cruise director in the Mediterranean on Viking Cruise Lines. So they had to quarantine Willie for like 4 or 5 days because he was so ill. And he posts a picture on Facebook of him looking out of the little porthole of his room.
I just posted it. He looks so sad.
Oh my, he looks so sad. And it reminded me of like that Twilight Zone episode, with William Shatner, that when he looks out the plane window and there's that monster staring back at him.
There's an Ames on the wing.
Yeah, there's an Ames on the wing. Yes. Yeah, poor Willie. But he's apparently, I talked to Winnie, his wife, and he's out of quarantine now, and he's back on duty. So
did he tell you exactly how much interaction does he have with people when he's quarantined on a ship?
Well, none. When he's quarantined, none. I mean, I think they bring him food and leave it at, because I mean, I'm afraid to go on a cruise ship. I just am. I'm afraid.
I'd be claustrophobic. I think.
Aren't you? Just being out in the middle of the water, and if it's the Titanic thing, if something happened, oh my God, that's it. Unless you get on a lifeboat, and what if you don't? I think all these things.
For me, that would be the way to go. I would. Because I don't want to be. James died at 72 from cancer. I don't want that. I want he crashed in a boat, and he made the news.
Okay, so you want to go out with a bang,
exactly.
or a big splash, right? Well, listen. Quarantine, when you're on a boat and there's a sickness, starts, it spreads like wildfire. And if one and what happens is a passenger probably comes on ill, and they're not going to miss a meal. They're going to go to everything that they're doing on the ship, and so they're touching things, and so then everybody gets it, and it becomes just a big infestation on ships. So for him, they had to quarantine him because he has interaction with people every day. He doesn't get a day off on the ship. He's the cruise director. He organizes everybody. So for Willie, he's just, a magnet for any of this stuff. And luckily, he really has never had it before. So this was his first big time getting ill. But yeah, I think they bring his food, and I think they leave it outside the door and dinner. Then he opens it, and then he has to throw it out when he's done.
What's weird?
Yeah, what? Yeah.
You said there's elevators on the ship. Imagine if this is going nowhere. Imagine if the clicking you heard at the little elevators in Florence was every time they lifted the little door for Willie's dinner. Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
Anyways, I better go on to celebrity birthdays while I'm on a low note there.
Let's do it.
Let's do celebrity birthdays. For new listeners, these are celebrities who are celebrating a birthday this week. John Cryer was in the very scary movie Danny Phantom. The Outer Limits was Ducky in Pretty in Pink, and the TV series 2.5 Men. Play along in the chat, fellas.
Okay. So John Cryer. Let's say 51.
Correct.
Stop it! I never get them right. This is fantastic.
Now the
Okay.
pressure's off. How does it feel?
Oh, babe, I feel great. 1 for 1. This is awesome. Okay, I'm ready. Give me number 2.
You might know this guy, Rick Moranis, who was in Little Shop of Horrors, Gravedale High, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and co-starred along with Jennifer Baby Soft's Runyon in Ghostbusters.
Yes, Rick Moranis. How about 61? Yeah.
Well, he'll be 63. So close.
Okay.
Tim Curry.
Tim
You're
Curry.
so good. Tim Curry was in Ginger Clown, Scary Movie 2, Addams Family Reunion, The Mask, and the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah. Okay, let me think. Rocky Horror. I was probably 15 or 16. I'm going to say 67.
Very close again. He'll be 70.
Okay.
And this guy, I'll give you a hint, was a little older than I thought. Jack Nicholson, who was in The Witches of Eastwick, Wolf, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Mars Attacks, and was Jack Torrance in The Shining. Jack Nicholson.
Let's say 83.
Ooh, 79. He'll be 79. I haven't seen too much of him lately.
See, I suck.
No.
Okay.
And I got one more for extra bonus points. Not a scary movie celebrity, but Queen Elizabeth has a birthday on April 21st. How old was Queen Elizabeth? She was old when I was a kid. How old was she be?
90.
Correct! The first ever extra bonus point game in the history of the Haunted Chronicles.
Okay, that was awesome, because I had no clue. I'm feeling pretty good about myself right now.
That's funny. I got to use this expression. Paramedic in the chat wrote, "Crikey, got to be around 77." Crikey.
Crikey. I like that word.
I have one thing I want to get to before our stories that everyone's waiting for, our fascinating stories. Yeah. We had a Creepy Kids episode on December 18th, 2015, if anybody wants to go back and listen to that. And that was Creepy Things Kids Tell Their Parents. And I found a new one this week by accident when I was researching stuff. And it was a short one, but I wanted to share it with you guys. Okay. He was surprised his stepdaughter had asked for him and not her mother in the middle of the night. The 6-year-old had barely tolerated him for the months they had shared a home. "What's wrong? Monsters in your closet?" he asked. She nodded. "Mr. Bones won't let me sleep." "Mr. Bones? That's funny. My monster's name was Mr. Bones when I was your age." He chuckled. "Hey, maybe he's here for me and not you." She reached to turn off the light and said, "He told me the same thing." We're going to do another Creepy Kids episode.
Oh, I do. That was a good one. Oh, I like that. Creepy Kids. Nothing better.
Exactly. Let's see. And then I got the idea for this subject years and years before any of this. But a story that interested me was a nurse was telling me a story about she worked in a hospital, and there was a special wing for sick infants, and there was a room with a rocking chair in it where if a baby was crying, they'd use that room to comfort the baby. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, her coworker hung herself.
Oh.
Soon afterwards, if a baby cried on the floor, and only if the baby cried, the rocking chair would start rocking back and forth by itself. And I
Oh.
I was actually planning to sneak into the hospital somehow and get that chair about
Oh
20 years
no.
ago. And and, and that's weird because you're saying is is the if it's a spirit, is it kind of telling them, hey, there's a baby crying, get to work, or is she like
Yeah.
rocking it herself? It's
Yeah.
a sad.
Calming herself or the baby, or saying, "Come get it. Go get a baby. It's time."
Yeah, so that story
Wow.
kind of got me
Hmm.
on that subject, and then I saw a lot of stuff comes across the feed, and I wanted to say, before I forget, Facebook. I don't know what they did to it, but we're only allowed to invite 50 people to like a event.
Oh.
When I think it used to be 500, so they
Oh.
whittled it down to 50. I'm still able to do some on my phone, like over that lets me do that, and
Uh-huh.
also if people share the page, like if I don't check my phone for a couple hours, it'll say Jennifer and 5 others shared your post, and it'll only
Right.
show me the first name. So if I miss anybody this week, that's why. It's thank you all for sharing, and it's hard to keep track. So I guess that's a good thing.
Hmm. Definitely.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
let's.
Yeah.
You want to tell the first story? Gonna hear it.
Ah. Do you want me to? Do you want me to tell one?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. So I found this story. This story is kind of creepy. Okay. It's a police officer story. Myself and a buddy on my squad responded to an alarm. The incident location was an old office-type building that had been converted to a doctor's office. There was a pharmacy attached to it. Our dispatch received a motion signal from an upstairs office. Key holder arrives on scene, and we go in to secure the building. The stairs were locked behind a door that, of course, the key holder didn't have the keys to. So we took the elevator up to the second floor. Not the most tactical sound option, but we did. Elevator opens to a pitch black hallway, except for one overhead light at the end of the hallway. We start checking doors, and so far all are secured. We get to the last office, and sure enough, the door is unlocked. We make entry and we observe it to be an unused office. The door opened to a sizable waiting room and reception area. There were about 10 or 12 exam rooms, all cleared with no hiccups. So we exit the office and immediately something seems off. That is when we realize the overhead light at our end of the hallway that had been on was now off, replaced by another light over by the elevators. I look at my squad mate, and he is completely white. And I ask him, what's wrong? And he says, weren't all these doors we just checked closed and locked? And I tell him, yeah, so. And my buddy says, well, now they're all standing open. And sure enough, all the offices down the hallway we had just checked were now standing open. So we start clearing offices, securing offices, and we finish at the last office, and we are on our way out. And just before we turn the corner to get into the waiting area, the main door just slams shut. Then our radios start going nuts with some kind of static feedback. Now I just want to get the hell out of there. We get back to the elevator and head down to the first floor to make contact with the key holder again. However, key holder is nowhere to be found. I contact dispatch and request a callback number for the key holder so I can advise him of what we found. Dispatch says that the key holder was still en route to us and was advising an ETA of 5 minutes. I advised the dispatch that we had already been out with the key holder. Dispatch requests I give them a call. I called dispatch, and she tells me that there is no way we were out there with the key holder. She states that the alarm company had only just made contact with one, Eventually, the real key holder arrives on scene, and I ask her about the man that had let us in the building, the first key holder. And she asked me to describe him, so I did. And she states that sounds like one of the doctors that used to lease the office on the second floor at the end of the hall. She then states that he committed suicide at his summer home several years ago. And he says, I still won't go back there.
Very
Creepy.
scary.
Creepy. It was a long one, but it was creepy.
Very creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Mine's like three lines long. It's not fair.
I know, I find these long ones. You get right
slowly.
to the point.
I'll read slowly.
Slowly.
This one's called Don't Let Them Take Me.
Ooh.
A nurse was given a new patient who was passing away and had been unconscious for several days. At one point during the night, the nurse went into the room and the patient was on top of the bed, standing and looking at her and said, Don't let them take me.
Ooh.
The nurse was freaked out and asked her who was going to take her, and she said that black thing up there and pointed up in the air, and the patient died within minutes.
Oh.
That's the end of that one.
Oh. Oh. Oh, that's scary.
Bless her pointing heart.
Yeah. Oh, and something about standing on the bed. That's
Yeah, they didn't really describe how she was like. I was wondering if she was on the edge of the bed. Did you see that video that's been on internet with the baby standing on the crib ledge?
No.
Did anybody see that? There's a video. There's a. It's like the little baby cam video.
Yeah.
And this baby somehow stands on top of the little door that opens and closes for the crib. The baby's standing on it, like perfectly balanced, like
What?
with their arms in the air, reaching for something.
Okay, I have like chills right now. I have goosebumps on my arms. Ooh.
Yeah, it's really creepy. Look it up if you get a chance.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Forgot about that one.
Oh my gosh.
I think we have time for another one. This one I got from True Stories from the firefighter forum, firehouse.com, if you guys want to look some up yourself. Now, not all encounters are scary. Okay, this one is from firefighter. We were responding to a call in a dark, secluded industrial area one night when the engine suddenly sputtered, stalled, and coasted to a stop sign right in front of a railroad crossing with no gates. Just as we stopped, a freight train came through. The engine started right up and ran fine after the train passed. Hope that wasn't hard to follow.
Ooh.
And then this same firefighter, one blazing hot summer afternoon, we were called to highway. Do you remember when the teacher used to say you have to write a 200-page essay on a subject
Yes.
you only knew 2 sentences about, so you added 50 adjectives to each word?
Yes.
Some firefighter, one blazing hot summer afternoon, we were called to a highway construction site for a small building fire. We pulled up and began advancing the hand line when it suddenly seemed like the hose became tangled up or snagged. We went back to the engine to check the hose bed, and just as the building blew up into thousands of tiny pieces, there were no tangles in the hose, and it wasn't caught up or hung up anywhere. Holy mackerels.
Heavens to Murgatroyd.
Heavens to Betsy. I'm going to save the rest for after break. I think we got a couple minutes. I want to tell you one thing. This week,
Yes.
I don't know if you noticed on Facebook, I wrote, because I was bored, name peripheral characters from the Brady Bunch. And I got so many funny ones, and I'm admitting I stalked one and saw she was on Facebook, and I didn't add her because it had one mutual friend, and it was you. And I don't want you to think I want you to think I was fishing in your friends. So
I wouldn't think that, but go ahead. Go ahead.
Her name, she was Molly Weber.
Okay.
She was Molly Weber. She was one of the
Molly
peripheral
Weber.
characters. I can't remember what she did.
I
But we
remember
also
Molly Weber.
we'll look it up on break. But we had
Yeah.
people guess Dr. Vogel, the dentist, Doug Simpson, Tiger, the butcher, the neighbors, the Dittmeyers, Mr.
Yeah.
Phillips, Mike's boss, Davy
Wasn't there
Jones,
Don
Rosie
Ho?
Greer,
It
Joe Namath, Don
didn't.
Ho.
Yeah, Don
Who?
Ho.
That Hawaii episode was the best.
Oh, I loved it.
And they
I
even had
loved it.
Mr. Hanalei, who was the man who helped them find that cave to
Yes.
return the
Oh my God.
tiki.
Uh,
And
I still pinch myself sometimes. Sunday mornings Brady Bunch is on, and I will watch it because that was my favorite show as a kid, and I forget that I was Christmas Cindy. So I completely it'll hit me. I'm like, oh wait a minute,
I'm a
I was
Brady.
a Brady for 5 minutes. I
Brady.
still love that show. Still
Wow,
love it.
and keeping with tradition, the Year of the Monkey, we have another song with a monkey in the title, and we'll
All
be
right.
right back after this, folks. Welcome back, fellas. I want to thank everyone who shared our event page, and if I didn't get you, send me a message, and I'll add you next week. To Christine, Ghosts and All Things Paranormal, Maggie, Rick, Electric City Paranormal, Valerie, Paul, Corey, Frankie, Chad, Russell, Amy, Paranormal Cat, Sarah, Brenda, Leanne, Tiffany, Sherry, Charles, Brock, Kevin, Eric, Howard, Leo, Randy, Kevin, Big Bear Ghost Seekers, Linda, Colin, Brian on the Fringe, Candy, Heather, and shout out to Cheryl from WSCR. Everybody in the chat. Shout out to people in the chat. Debbie, Dr. Dave, Fellini, Indy, Dwayne, Lisa, Mark, Paramedic, Randy, Tiffany, Tony, Dead Dude, Chad, Valerie, Candy, Debbie, Brian, Jane Doe, Desi, Kara E, BN Hank, Maggie Renee, Scott H, and assorted guests. Thank you for joining us tonight. And we're back to scary stories. Thank you.
Thank you. You know what story really creeps me out?
Nope.
And no, you don't. You don't. 'Cause I haven't told you yet. And I think that it's the house in, I think it's in Gary, Indiana, with the woman and her 3 children, and I think Zach Baggins.
Yeah.
What's that guy? He ended up buying it. I only know what I've kind of read about it before he bought it, but I remember that story. I mean, that had police officials and government officials having experiences in there and seeing what was happening. That house always, I always get really freaked out when I would read about that story. That was one of
my research assistant just handed me this paper. A police captain in Gary, Indiana, says he believes a family's claims of supernatural terror in a rental house. They've since fled. Levitating children, swarms of flies in wintertime, mysterious footprints, invisible friends, another child walking backward up a wall in the presence of a family case manager and hospital nurse.
Oh, God.
This movie-ready tale even features screaming Catholic priests performing exorcisms. And I do remember that story because I remember that they said they had multiple witnesses to the girl? I don't remember if it was a little girl or a boy. But
I can't remember either. But yeah, right? Like
they
social
did the spider
workers.
walk. They did the exorcist spider walk up the wall.
Oh, and that creeped me out because there were people who saw this that were, they couldn't explain it, and then that Zach guy bought it, and I guess he did a movie, and then he destroyed it.
Right. I'm reading past the article here. I found this weird quote. While most children behave this way most of the time, Ammons was convinced the devil was involved. I never had my kids walk up walls before.
No,
You?
I thought my son was Damien for about a summer, once, but
You got better?
no, I got better. Oh my God, that was horrible. You have kids, and something takes over their bodies for a little while in their minds, and you're like, what the hell happened to my kid? Where are they? And yeah, I had a summer like that, but then I
Unfortunately,
got
I
better.
would know exactly what happened to my kid if they started doing stuff like that.
Yeah, you would.
Look at their papa.
Yeah.
So
Papa would know what to do.
Do you want to hear a story about a taxi driver or a police
Yes.
abduction?
Okay, both.
Okay. This is a short one, a taxi. You might have seen this on the net. A Japanese college student questioned 100 taxi drivers as part of her sociology thesis.
Mm-hmm.
When asked, did you have any unusual experiences since the tsunami of 2011, I think it was? They 7 of them responded out of 100 responded with eerie and similar stories. They all reported ghost passengers, riders. They say that entered their cab shortly after the tsunami. The passengers disappeared before the ride was over. One driver said the passenger asked, "Have I died?" and then disappeared right afterwards.
Oh.
And another said, "Take me to a mountain." And then he disappeared.
Oh.
And I guess they wanted to be high up or something. But yeah, I think 7 out of 100 is more than a coincidence right there.
Yeah. Oh.
We had another taxi driver story on Strange Coincidences show. If you want to look that one up, I can't look it up right now. But it was a weird coincidence where 2 twin brothers got hit by the same taxi. I gotta look it up later. It's a really good story. We'll save it for next week.
Okay. There's certain times, like, when you've heard stories that really creeped you out when you're younger, and this was one I actually saw the footage of. This was crazy. I remember, I think I was probably around 14, and my mom had the news on, and I was here in California, and I remember sitting there, whatever I was doing, and it was like an unusual ghost story, caught on film, and a family had, said, that their house was being haunted, and, things was all this paranormal activity, and, crazy things were happening. So the reporters came, and they were investigating, or I don't know if they even did that then, but they probably did, but they were there, and literally, I've never forgotten this as long as I live. They were talking to the mother on camera, and she was saying, yeah, this stuff keeps happening, and I have goosebumps right now thinking about it. It really freaked me out. And all of a sudden, you hear all this crashing and banging, and she goes, "Oh my God!" And she jumps up, and the cameraman, they pan, and in the kitchen, all the cupboard doors are swinging, and they walk in there, and all the drawers of the kitchen were open, and the silverware had flung out, and all you could see at this point, though, was one of the cabinet doors was swinging. I mean, that was the creepiest thing I think I've ever seen caught on film, and I've always looked for it, and I can't find it. I'm going to keep searching for that.
Yeah,
that's
a good project for all the listeners to try to find that and send it to us.
Yeah, it would have been an LA story, probably 1974, 75. I'll keep looking too, and I don't know which news channel it was, but
Never heard of that one.
that was crazy, just crazy.
I have.
Mm-hmm.
I have another nurse story if you'd like to hear it.
Yeah.
This one's called The Nun. Was that the click monster? Did you hear that?
Did you hear the click?
All right. Yeah. Like most very old hospitals, at one time, our hospital was run by nuns. One particular unit had been converted into a sleep study lab area for outpatient tests. One shift, in the middle of the night, I was watching the video monitor, and all 5 patients simultaneously began removing their monitoring equipment. I went into the first room to ask what was going on, and the patient said that an old nurse with a hat on told her the study was over and that she could leave. All the other patients reported the same story. And I got a short story about that one. When I got a sleep study done, I just couldn't deal with it. I couldn't breathe with that machine on, so it only lasted like an hour, and they kicked me out. So I went into work, and I didn't know they had all these little electrode things, I guess they call them, the little like metal. Because I glued them all over my skin, and I still had my hospital.
Take them off?
Yeah, I didn't know how many. No, because it kind of kicked me out, and I went to work with them all in, and I had the hospital.
Wait. Can I just wait?
Yeah.
So what? You couldn't sleep. So they're like, you're out of here.
Well, I was being a pain because I said they kept telling me to put the machine on, and I couldn't breathe with it. I kept pushing it off when I was falling asleep. Yeah. And he said that's it. You stop breathing for over a minute, like 13 times in an hour or something. So they tried to get me some sleep, and it didn't work. But I just remember people, I went to work with those little metal things on my skin and the hospital bands, and I'm wondering what my coworkers think of it. And what would you think? I don't know.
Frankenstein.
Exactly.
You're doing some crazy things at home there, Jimmy.
Yeah. And let's see. That was The Nun. This is a good one. This is called The Police Officer. Aren't I creative? I was on duty.
Did you give that title? I
did it all by myself. I worked on it all week. Scratching my head, thinking, pondering.
Yeah.
I was on duty one night at the front desk of our office when I got a call from an elderly male in a village a few miles away. This was obviously written, in the 60s or 70s because there's no internet. Doesn't sound like they were.
Right.
He was very short of breath and wanted me to give him the number of a local doctor. I didn't have the number on hand, so I put the phone down for 2 seconds while I looked it up. When I picked up the phone again, the line was still open, but I couldn't hear anything, and I tried shouting into the phone, telling him to make any sort of noise if he could hear me, but I got nothing. I contacted the control room on another line and got them to trace the call so I could get help to the man who I was convinced had collapsed and was dying. When the number was traced, the local cops went to the address, which they recognized as the scene of a sudden death 3 weeks before. The sole occupant of the house had died of a respiratory illness, and the house was empty and vacant on their arrival.
Oh, that's yeah. Those kind of stories with the telephone thing.
A lot of telephone. That's a good, you know what? That's a good subject for another show. Because when I was researching these, I found a bunch of 9/11 calls. I searched like 9/11 calls, paranormal, haunted, and there's bunches of them on YouTube of people calling with crazy things happening in their house and stuff like that. We gotta probably edit them down a little.
Yeah, that would be a fun show to do because there's lots of creepy stories. Yeah,
haunted phone calls.
Haunted phone calls. There you go. Okay, I have one. Okay. This is called On Duty.
Oh.
Okay, quick one. Traffic guy at my agency was catching up to a DUI suspect. No lights or sirens. Suspect is easily 300 to 400 yards ahead at 3,300 hours. on a very long stretch of semi-rural, I can't say that word, semi-rural road. Left side lit by street, rural. I've never been able to say that word. Left side lit by streetlights, right side dark. Both cars are moving fast at 80 miles per hour or so. Video shows suspect vehicle lose something from its rear. Turns out it was his rear bumper. After it stops tumbling, video shows, this is creepy too, video shows a black figure dart into the roadway from the left, lit by streetlights, pick up or move bumper, and then dart to the right side of roadway where it's dark. Video shows nothing on the right side of roadway when officer drives by area. Officer did not see this occur at the time, but instead when he reviewed his video in the car to find out where the suspect lost his bumper at. Yes, he did catch him, but the dart figure has no reflective type clothing on, as most joggers, dog walkers do in the area, and was definitely in the right place at the right time, as the officer most likely would have hit the bumper due to his speed. Video showed nothing before or after as far as anyone on either side of road. Officer showed me video several times but refused to release it. Yeah, he's kind of weirded out. Video is legit.
Wow.
But we really kind of want to see that.
I want to see it. I think we should call that semi-rural.
Semi-rural. I sound drunk when I say that. Rural.
Yeah, don't say rural. Yeah, it's a tip from the Haunted Chronicles. If you get stopped by the police for any reason, don't even say the word rural.
Don't say rural
in your conversation. So it's not going to come
out. You're getting in that back seat, baby, with handcuffs behind your back.
You're going to the pokey.
You're going to the pokey. It's happening.
Oh, very scary.
I have a cute story.
I would like to hear a cute story.
You want to hear a cute little story? Okay, It's kind of, it's sort of long again, but I'll read fast. It's called The Ghost Infestation. Okay, I made that up too. New title. Okay, now most of the time, this was all right. I think she liked the company, but once in a while, ghosts would like to get a wee bit rowdy. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Where am I? So there was this woman. Okay. So I'm going to start the story because I cut it off here. I copied it and I cut it off. So there's this little old lady, and she would constantly call 911 because there were ghosts in her house. And she would say, they're upstairs. You've got to come and tell them to get the hell out. So it was like a routine. They would go and they'd all go in there. The two officers would go up and go, okay, come on, you're out of here now. This is it. We're done. Leave her alone. And then everything would be calm for, a week, and then it would happen again. So they're saying most of the time this was all right. I think she liked the company. But once in a while, the ghost would get a wee bit rowdy. Thereupon, she'd call the sheriff's office, and one of us would have to be dispatched to take care of the situation. We'd show up, and she'd let us into the huge old house. The officer would go upstairs and read a stern warning to the ghosts. I found that if you took George C. Scott's speech from Patton, complete with pacing back and forth and gestures, and cleaned up the language a bit, the ghost would normally be impressed enough to keep quiet for a week or two. Once we were done, you'd go downstairs where the little lady would stuff you full of homemade cinnamon rolls and iced tea, and you'd swap gossip for a while. One day, the sheriff gets a bright idea. We take care of this situation once and for all. Plans are made. People are notified. We wait for the call. And one Friday evening, she calls. Not only are the ghosts rowdy, it sounds like they're having a party, she says. And delivered in whispered tones, she thinks she heard some girls giggling up there, too, and this wasn't right. So the call goes out. We load up our full-time officers, all four of them. We get our reserves, mostly security from a local federal facility. We don our ninja gear. We mount our trusty steed, reworked Korea air. I don't know what that means. And we sway and sputter and backfire and shudder and creak our way over hill and through dale. Once on location, a hasty, whispered conference takes place, and who looks the least threatening? Well, that would be yours truly, having hysterics in the back. Up I go. I knock on the door, tell the little lady that we're here to solve her problem, and seat her on the porch, swaying with a blanket. and crash. 20 SWAT rhinos in full gear hit the door, clear the bottom floor tactically, flow the stairs, and then shouting starts. Hey, you. Yeah, you. Out. Get out. Out of here. Out, all of you. Clear. Yes, you. Where do you think you're going? You get out. Out. Okay, so thus, we are thoroughly scared and cowed. Subjects herded to the front, invisible subjects are herded to the front lawn where the sheriff is standing on the roof of the the SWAT vehicle, delivering his patented fire and brimstone, straight path, crooked path speech, complete with finger pointing, arm waving, and emotional whatever that word is, to what only an absolute cynic would consider an empty lawn. Watched with great interest by all the neighbors, heck, most of the town, who promptly got out on their lawn chairs with sodas and snacks and basically started a block party. And then he says, small towns. Once we were done and had allowed the thoroughly chastised and completely humbled spirits back upstairs, we sat her in her kitchen, and she fed us cinnamon rolls and drank iced tea. And during the last part, the lady whispered to me, "You missed one." Never said I wasn't fast on my mental feet. I promptly whispered back that he was too young to be subjected to such a scary action, and she examined him closely and declared that I was probably right. It took the ghosts almost 3 months to go back to their rowdy ways. I thought that was cute.
So they got a 6-month
Granny.
sentence. We have 2 minutes left. I'm going to do a quick one.
Yeah.
It's called Police Dispatcher. I had received a call from a landline one night, and when I answered it, there was only static on the other end. This happened 2 more times. Finally, I called a squad car to go check out the address from the caller ID. When they got there and walked into the house, they immediately saw a dead body. They later found out this person had been dead for 5 months. The craziest part about it was there was no electricity or no other utilities working. And we're not going to have any more time for stories. Next week we're taking off. We're taking a spring break week. And then the week after we have Fabian Trahan. Is going to come into Haunted Chronicle Studios. And on May 13th we have Alexandra Holzer coming on. And then we're going to fill up those dates in between. Unfortunately, we're out of time, fellas. Good night. Fellas.
Night. Hey,
good night,
Jim. Good night, Dr. Dave.
Thank you, Dr. Dave. Thank you for listening, fellas. See you in 2 weeks.
Bye, folks.
Good night.